5 notorious gangsters from the Prohibition Era.
5.
Lester Joseph Babyface Nelson. Without a doubt the youngest gangster on this list, Lester Joseph Babyface Nelson was no stranger to the world of crime. His first criminal offense came at the age of just 7 years old, when he accidentally shot one of his playmates in the jaw with a pistol he just happened to have found. Because of this, he served a full year in prison. This may have been what propelled him into the world of crime, because over the years following this incident, he became known for his involvement in several armed robberies, as well as for his connection to the John Dillinger gang. On March 3, 1934, John Dillinger made his famous wooden pistol escape from the jail in Crown Point, Indiana. Although the details remain in some dispute, the escape is suspected to have been arranged and financed by members of Nelson's newly formed gang, including Homer Van Meter, Tommy Carroll, Eddie Green, and John Red Hamilton, with the understanding that Dillinger would repay some part of the bribe money out of his share of the first robbery. The night Dillinger arrived in the Twin Cities, Nelson and his friend John Paul Chase were driving when they were cut off by a car driven by a local paint salesman named Theodore Kidder. Nelson lost his temper and gave chase, crowding Kidder to the curb. The salesman exited his vehicle to protest, whereupon Nelson shot him dead. After numerous other criminal activities like the Little Bohemia incident and even gaining the nickname Public Enemy No. 1, Nelson eventually met his demise on November 27, 1934, outside Chicago in the town of Barrington, during a short but vicious gunfight with FBI agents. Nelson was killed along with federal agents Herman Ed Hollis and Samuel P. Crowley. 4. George Bugs Moran. A lot of people tried to take down Capone at the height of the Prohibition Era. However, his biggest threat aside from the police was a fellow gangster by the name of George Bugs Moran. Following the establishment of Prohibition in 1920, criminal enterprises sprang up to smuggle now illegal liquor to the public. They imported it, manufactured it, stole it, and sold it as a scarce commodity for great profit. The popularity of alcohol and lack of legal competition ensured an endless supply of customers. Criminals and gangsters were enjoying profits beyond anything the basic rackets had ever provided. Among them were Dean O'Banion and his group of mostly Irish thugs, including Bugs Moran, who became known as the North Side Gang. Al Capone succeeded Johnny Torrio as the leader of the Italian mob on the south side of Chicago. These two rivals fought violently, resulting in what is known as the Bootleg Battle of the Marne. The bootlegging operation of Hymie Weiss and Bugs Moran continued to pose a significant challenge to Capone's South Side gang. Moran and Capone then escalated a turf war with each other that cost them both. Moran's hatred of Capone was apparent, even to the public's eye. One of the main reasons for his hatred was Capone's engagement in prostitution. Moran would not increase profits by engaging in prostitution rings due to his Catholic religion. Torrio's gang killed Dean O'Banion, and in an attempt to avenge him, Bugs Moran and Earl Hymie Weiss made an attempt on Torrio's life. They later went on to attempt to hit on Al Capone at his headquarters, the Hawthorne Inn in Cicero, Illinois, but failed. It was reported that an estimated 1,000 shots were fired at the inn and at a nearby restaurant in their attempt to kill Capone. In retaliation, Weiss's life was taken by Al Capone's gang, and Bugs Moran became head man of the North Side Gang. Responding to Weiss's death, Moran tried to kill a member of Capone's gang, resulting in an attack, allegedly from Capone, that is infamously known as the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
3.
Enoch Johnson. Without a doubt, one of the most unique mobsters of that time period, Enoch "Nucky" Johnson was certainly different from other notorious gangsters. What made him different was his position of power, as he combined the public world of politics with the underworld of crime in order to maintain his power. Nucky was a political leader in Atlantic City and Atlantic County and began his rise to power when he was elected as the new sheriff of the Atlantic County Republican-Mexican Committee. He led a notorious organization involved in activities such as prostitution and gambling, and he was an advocate of the vice industry of the United States. Nucky was so notorious that HBO, the network that previously developed the critically acclaimed gangster series The Sopranos, tried their hand at making a new gangster show based around the criminal activities of Nucky Johnson called Boardwalk Empire.
2.
John Dillinger. John Dillinger had been involved in crime throughout his entire life. Some of his crimes included robbery of around 25 banks and police stations in the United States, with the total revenue reaching around $500,000. Adjusted with today's inflation, that would be around $7 million, as well as the murder of several people in Chicago. He rose to popularity during the Depression era of the United States and was considered to be the most notorious of all notorious criminals in the country at that time. If there's one thing you had to give Dillinger credit for, it was his loyalty to his friends and family. However, his loyalty to his friends was what eventually led to his demise in 1934. Dillinger met his end at the hands of one of his crew members after the price on his head soared to $25,000 in 1934. Romanian-born Sage contacted the FBI and offered to give him up in exchange for part of the reward money and aid in avoiding deportation. On July 22, 1934, federal agents were watching as Sage, Hamilton, and Dillinger went to see the Clark Gable crime film Manhattan Melodrama at Chicago's Biograph Theater. When the trio stepped out onto the sidewalk shortly after 10:30 p.m., agents closed in with guns drawn. Dillinger struggled to pull a .380 automatic from his pocket, but was quickly cut down in a hail of bullets.
1.
Al Capone. Let's be honest, who else would you expect to be number one? Now, while there are gangsters out there who have done worse things than Capone, what sets Capone apart from the others is the fact that he was even feared by fellow gangsters. More famously known as the real Scarface, Al Capone was an American gangster who pioneered the crime world during the Prohibition era by having his hand in illicit businesses like liquor smuggling and prostitution. At a very young age, he became a member of a notorious gang in New York and engaged in numerous illegal activities, including bribery among government figures. Capone was certainly no pushover. If he had a problem, he would take care of it in the most brutal way possible. Take the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, for example, where 7 people were brutally gunned down. Still not convinced? Remember that scene in the movie The Untouchables where Capone, played by Robert De Niro, brutally killed one of his own henchmen with a baseball bat to prove a point during a sit-down meeting? Well, apparently that wasn't a work of fiction, as it reportedly happened on May 7, 1929. A few years before he died, he led a Prohibition-era crime syndicate, but was brought down by Agent Elliot Ness on the grounds of tax evasion. He spent the rest of his life behind bars on Alcatraz Island.